Skeptics said young people wouldn't come in great numbers, that economic worries, post-pandemic concerns, and the abuse crisis in the church would keep them away. And yet, an estimated 300,000 young people filled Edward VII Park in the centre of Lisbon for the opening mass of World Youth Day. The young people flooded the city of Lisbon, literally coming from every corner of the world. This is the 37th World Youth Day, with Pope Francis touching down on Wednesday morning to share this pilgrimage with the young people, the Pope's second time to ever visit Portugal. After meeting with the country's president, Manuel Rebelo de Sousa, and the Prime Minister, Antonio Costa, the Pope made his first public address, adopting a seafaring theme throughout his speech, linking Portugal's maritime history with the current problems facing Europe.
The ocean, this immense expanse of water, recalls the origins of life. And isn't it a paradox that today's world disregards life, the unborn children, the older people who are abandoned?
The Pope continued to link the vast ocean, Portugal borders, and the current issues facing the world today.
The oceans are warming, and their depths are bringing to light the shamelessness with which we have polluted our common home. How can we claim to believe in young people if we do not give them a healthy space to build their future?
Later that day, the Pope continued the theme of the sea when meeting Portugal's church leaders, using the Gospel passage from Luke of casting nets into the deep to call on them not to become discouraged and to go out and evangelize. Pope Francis then addressed an issue that has caused so much anger and pain among Catholics in Portugal: the release of the country's first large report on sexual abuse within the Portuguese Catholic Church earlier this year.
There are moments in our ecclesial journey when we can feel a weariness, when we seem to be holding only empty nets. Lower the nets anew and embrace the world with the hope brought by the gospel. Scandals have marred the church's face. They call us to a humble and ongoing purification. The victims' cries must always be accepted and listened to.
The release of this report cast a shadow over Lisbon's preparations for World Youth Day, with some Portuguese criticizing the government for hosting and helping to fund the event in light of what some say is a lack of accountability from the church. Alberto Marques Fernandes is a journalist with RTP, the national broadcaster of Portugal, who has been covering the story. This has been a big year for Portugal and for the Catholic Church in Portugal because of the release of the study that was done into sexual abuse in the church here. What was the reaction to that study that was done?
A very bad reaction. Everybody knows that something happened in the church and is still happening in the church, but nobody has the document saying that. This is a shock. This is our crisis in Portugal. At the same time, we organize the Youth Day, so it's a bit sad.
Bittersweet.
But it's important to talk about that. It's important to clean the house.
Away from the cameras and the press, Pope Francis did meet privately with 13 abuse victims. On Thursday morning, the Pope visited the Catholic University of Portugal, where he heard the testimonies of 4 young people who shared their hopes and dreams for the future, not just for themselves, but also for the entire world. One young woman from Iran, who is now living in Portugal, told the Pope about living in fear for herself and her family, but how that has only strengthened her faith.
After all I've been through, the constant feeling of being without a home, family, friends, being homeless with no money, I feel proud of my new life in this beautiful country.
She finished by telling Pope Francis that she could not describe what it meant for her to be speaking to him. An event like this is not cheap to put on. When we visited Lisbon a few months ago to report on the preparations for World Youth Day, we sat down with the Mayor of Lisbon, Carlos Moedas, and spoke about the scrutiny around the costs of hosting the event, as well as other logistical challenges. Now, he says it has all been worth it. Now the moment has arrived. How is everything going?
It's very well. I think that we are giving an example also to the world that a city like Lisbon is prepared, that we were able to do our job. We have 43,000 people that we are really putting in schools. They're sleeping there, they're happy. So we found ways, as I told you.
On Thursday, the pilgrims were back at Edward VII Park, the large blue stage symbolising a wave in the ocean, where they gave an emotional welcome to Pope Francis. And speaking to them, he told them that they were being called.
Each of us is called by name, called because we are loved. In God's eyes, we are precious children, a unique and original masterpiece, whose beauty we can only begin to glimpse.
Organisers estimate that over 500,000 young people were in the crowd.
Exciting, but also overwhelming with so many people in so many countries.
Of seeing people with like-minded individuals that want to be closer to Christ.
Crazy to see it in person and how many people really love Jesus.
This weekend, Pope Francis and the pilgrims will move location when they go to Tejo Park along the Tejo River. On Saturday night, they will have a candlelit vigil, and then on Sunday, Pope Francis will celebrate the final Mass, bringing World Youth Day to a close with a crowd expected to be up to 1 million. In Lisbon, Portugal, Colm Flynn, EWTN News In Depth.